Welcome to the Stylish Design channel. I will help you understand what HTML is in an understandable format and for free. Content of the video lesson. The main element. Header element. The section element. Element nav. Element div. The footer element. Elements H1 to H6. Element P. The span element. Element A. The comment element. The main element indicates the main content of the document. The main element includes the main content of the body element of the document or application and excludes content that repeats on the pages of the application site, such as site navigation links, copyright information, site logos and banners, and search forms unless the primary function document or application is searchable. It is not sectional content, so it does not affect the structure of the document. There should be no more than one main element in a document. Example: the header element defines the title of the document or section. The header element represents the introductory content for its closest ancestor, the main element, or an element from the sectional content category or root sectional element. The header element usually contains a group of introductory or navigational elements. If the header element is the closest ancestor of the body element and is not inside main, it represents the introductory content for the page as a whole. The header element can also be used as a wrapper element for section content, a search form, or any relevant logos. The document can contain several header elements at the same time and they can be placed in any part of the page. The header element is not section content, does not introduce a new section. Example: the header element defines the title of the document or section. The header element represents the introductory content for its closest ancestor, the main element, or an element from the sectional content category or root sectional element. The header element usually contains a group of introductory or navigational elements. If the header element is the closest ancestor of the body element and is not inside main, it represents the introductory content for the page as a whole. The header element can also be used as a wrapper element for section content, a search form, or any relevant logos. The document can contain several header elements at the same time and they can be placed in any part of the page. The header element is not section content, does not introduce a new section. Example: the section element defines a section in the document. The section element represents a general section of a document or application. Grouping thematic content. Examples of sections are sections, tabbed pages, or numbered sections. The home page of a website can be divided into sections for introduction, news, and contact information. Authors are encouraged to use the article element instead of the section element when the content is complete or self-contained. The section element is not a universal container element. When an element is needed only for styling or for ease of scripting, it is recommended to use the div element. As a general rule, a section element is appropriate only if the content of the element is explicitly specified in the document schema. Example: the nav element defines navigation links. The nav element is a section of the page with navigational links that links to other pages or parts within the page, and does not necessarily have to be inside the header. A page can have several nav elements. If the content of the nav element represents a list of items, it is recommended to use list markup. Does not replace ul or ol tags. It just frames them. Not all link groups on a page need to be wrapped with a nav element. This element is intended mainly for sections that consist of main navigation blocks. In particular, footers usually have a short list of links to various pages on the site, such as the terms of service, home page, and copyright page. For such cases, one footer element is enough. You can also add headings inside the element. Example: div element defines a section in a document. The div element does not mean anything by itself. It represents its child elements. Can be used with the class lang and title attributes to mark semantics. A shared group of consecutive elements. It is recommended to use the div element in cases where another element is not suitable. Using more appropriate elements instead of the div element provides better accessibility for readers and makes the code easier to maintain. On the other hand, the div element can be useful for stylistic purposes or for wrapping multiple paragraphs within a section that share properties. Example: the footer element defines the footer for a document or section. The footer element represents the footer for its closest ancestor. The main element, or an element from the section content category or the root section element, usually contains information about the author of the article, data about copyright, etc. When used as a full-page footer, the content is supplemented with copyright information, links to terms of use, contact information, links to related content, etc. There can be several footer elements in one web document. Both each page and each article can have its own footer element. Example: elements H1 to H6 defines HTML headings. The H1 to H6 elements are headings for their respective sections. These items have a rank determined by the number in their name. The H1 element has the highest rank. The H6 element has the lowest rank. And two elements with the same name have the same rank. Use the rank of header elements to create a document schema. The H1 through H6 elements should not be used to mark up subheadings, alternate headings, and taglines unless they are intended for a new section or subsection heading. Example: element P defines a paragraph. Element P is a paragraph. Paragraphs are blocks of text physically separated from adjacent blocks by empty lines. The P element should not be used when a more specific element is appropriate. Example: the span element defines a section in the document. The span element does not mean anything by itself, but it can be useful when used with global attributes such as class, lang, or dir. It represents its child elements. Tip: when text is caught in a span element, you can style it with CSS or manipulate it with JavaScript. Example: element A defines a hyperlink. If the element has an href attribute, then it is a hyperlink to another resource that can be navigated to or downloaded, or an anchor link to a fragment identifier that is the value in the element's id attribute in the linked document. The element can wrap around entire paragraphs, lists, tables, etc., even entire sections, as long as there is no interactive content inside, such as buttons or other links. Unvisited links are underlined and blue. The visited link is underlined and purple. The active link is underlined and red. Example: element attributes or href attribute specifies the hyperlink address. Example 1. The target attribute specifies where to open the linked document. Example 2. The download attribute specifies whether to download the target resource instead of navigating to it. Example 3. Rel attribute sets the relationship of the current document or topic subsection with the Target 1. Example 4. Tip. The following attributes: download, reflang, media, rel, target, and type cannot be present if the href attribute is not present. Comment element defines a comment. The comment tag is used to insert comments into the source code. Comments are not displayed in browsers. You can use comments to explain the code, which can help when editing the source code at a later date. This is especially useful if you have a lot of code. Example. Content of the video lesson. Element B in bold text. Element strong important text. Element I italics text. The M element is underlined text. Mark element marked text. Element small text. Element del remote text. The ins element is the inserted text. The subtext element is a substring text. The sup element is the text of the script. Element Q defines a short sentence. The time element specifies the date and time. The bridge element defines a single line break. Element B in bold text. Note: according to the HTML5 specification, the B tag should be used as a last resort, unless there is no more appropriate tag. The HTML5 specification states that headings should be marked with H1 to H6 tags. Underlined text should be marked with the M tag. Important text should be marked with the strong tag. And highlighted text should use the mark tag. Tip. You can also use CSS font weight to make the text bold. Example. Element strong important text. The strong tag is a phrase tag. It identifies important text. Tip. This tag is not deprecated, but you can achieve a richer effect with CSS. Example. Element I italics text. The I tag defines a piece of text in an alternate voice or mood. The content of the I tag is usually displayed in italics. The I tag can be used to indicate a technical term, a phrase from another language, an opinion or the name of a ship, etc. Example. The M element is underlined text. The M tag is a tag phrase. It appears as underlined text. Tip. This tag is not deprecated, but you can achieve more effect with CSS. Example. Mark element marked text. The mark tag defines marked texts. If you want to highlight parts of the text, use a label. Example. The element is small text. The small tag specifies smaller text and other side comments. Example. Element del remote text. The del tag specifies text that has been deleted from the document. Example. The ins element is the inserted text. The ins tag specifies text inserted into the document. Browsers usually strike lines through the removed text and underline the inserted text. Example. The subtext element is a substring text. The sub tag defines the text of the substring. Subline text appears half a character below the regular line and is sometimes displayed in a smaller font. Substring text can be used for chemical formulas, such as H2O. Example. The sup element is the text of the script. The sup tag defines the description text. The caption text is displayed half a character above the normal line, and is sometimes displayed in a smaller font. Script text can be used for footnotes. Example. Element Q defines a short sentence. The Q tag defines a short sentence. Browsers usually put quotation marks around a sentence. Tip. Use block quote to indicate a section that is quoted from another source. Example. The time element specifies the date and time. The time tag specifies a human-readable date and time. This element can also be used to encode dates and times in machine-readable form so that user agents can suggest adding birthday reminders or upcoming events to the user's calendar. And search engines can generate smarter search results. Example. The bridge element defines a single line break. The bridge tag inserts a single line break. The bridge tag is an empty tag, meaning it has no trailing tag. Tip. The bridge tag is useful for writing addresses or poems. Note. Use bridge to enter line breaks, not individual paragraphs. Example. Thank you for being with us on this exciting journey. I hope you have gained valuable knowledge and inspiration to start your web development career. Don't stop there. The world of web development is endless. And even more interesting and difficult tasks await you ahead. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next development tutorials and other interesting topics. Like if you enjoyed this tutorial and share your success in the comments.